Welcome Mizzou fans and hoopheads alike. This is Matt Watkins, and we're previewing each player in Mizzou's roster in the lead up to the 2025-2026 Tiger Hoops campaign. In today's episode, we will be featuring none other than Mark Mitchell. Mitchell, to me, represents Dennis Gates' biggest portal recruiting win in his tenure here at Mizzou. Mitchell is a former top 20 high school recruit out of the state of Kansas, a 5-star. Mizzou has recently landed 2 of those out of high school. They landed 1 out of the portal in Mark Mitchell. He saw 2 pretty productive seasons at Duke. He wasn't a big part of their offense. He skewed more into the role player category there, but he did start a lot of games, and he was an important player to their team. Mark Mitchell, in addition to having a former colleague, Tamar Bates at Mizzou, which I'm sure helped matters out, I think he was looking for a little bit bigger role than the Blue Devils were willing to offer. And with that, he had a pretty good season in his first year at Mizzou. He was named second team All-SEC by the media. He immediately raised the floor of the Tiger team last year when he saw an increased workload and thrived in that role. His game still has some areas for improvement. He is not yet seen as an NBA prospect. However, he has the opportunity this coming year for a patented second-year developmental blow-up that players have seemed to have found under Dennis Gates in the last few years. For those of you who are living under a rock and aren't aware, Mark Mitchell is a senior this year. He is a forward for the Mizzou Tigers. He's listed at 6'9", 230 pounds. He calls Kansas City, Kansas home, and he has previously played with the Duke Blue Devils and Sunrise Christian and Bishop Miege prior to hitting the college ranks. When we look at his numbers from a year ago, they were impressive. He averaged just shy of 14 points per game, nearly 5 rebounds per game, just under 2 assists per game, 1 steal per game, and nearly a block per game. When it came to stuff in the stat sheet, Mark Mitchell was that guy. For his advanced stats, he played 67.2% of the minutes for Mizzou Tigers last year. Again, having some trouble speaking here. His minutes ranked first on the Tigers team. His 24.5% usage rate was also first on the team. So when we talk about increasing role offensively, that's exactly what happened. He was around a 20% usage player at Duke. That blossomed to nearly 25%. He went from involved role player to primary player on the offense. And with it came a little bit of a reduction in his offensive rating, but it was still quite impressive. It was 114.7. That was 8th highest on the team, but a very healthy number considering how many possessions he was using. His effective field goal rate was 52.7. That was 9th highest on the team. His turnover rate, which for a big guy, was pretty impressive. It was 13.5%, which was 5th best on the team. And his BPR, Bayesian Performance Rating, which is a number given to us by Evan Maya, takes into account a player's entire impact on the game, offensively and defensively. His BPR was 5.87. That was 3rd highest on the Mizzou Tiger team, 17th highest in the SEC, and the 4th highest among all returning players in the conference. So when we talk about his role, there's not a whole lot of imagination in this one. For some of the other players, we kind of have to look deeper. With Mark Mitchell, that's not the case. Assuming nothing unexpected happens with him or anyone else he figures to be one of Mizzou's primary options offensively, a very significant contributor defensively, and probably odds on to be a repeat all-conference selection when the teams are announced this coming March. It's not so much a question of where he fits in. The bigger question is how. In some ways, when we talked about him last fall, we talked about the Kobe Brown role. That is an athletic, versatile 6'9" forward. That was kind of true, but Mark Mitchell is still a different player than Kobe Brown. Mark hasn't quite shown the chops that Kobe had as a passer or jump shooter. And at least as the shooting goes, Kobe Brown hadn't either up until his senior year. But the point being is that at least senior year Kobe Brown versus junior Mark Mitchell, they're very different players. Mark did come around with the jump shot a little bit when you look at his non-conference numbers versus conference and beyond. His free throw percentage rose from 60.8% to 72% once conference season hit. His three-point numbers, 20.8% in the non-conference, they rose to a low number, but still a pretty significant increase to 30.8% once conference play rolled around. He looked better. He looked like he was more confident shooting. The jumper form, still not great, but it was a little bit better, a little bit less of a hitch in the jumper. But when we look at where he fits in the Mizzou offense, he's going to be an optimal player when it comes time to it. Where he fits in and how he fits in, whether he can develop a little bit more of that jump shot, whether he can be a little bit more of a distributor, playmaker. Those are the types of things I'm going to be looking for, and I think scouts for the NBA will be looking for this year. Mizzou's offense features two heavy on-ball offensive players with Sebastian Mack and Anthony Robinson. Will Mark settle into the familiar role that he had last year as more of a off-ball player, using a lot of possessions but not really creating offense for others? Or will he become more of a distributor and more of a playmaker that we saw with Kobe Brown in that 4 spot that was so deadly in Mizzou's offense? Those are questions we don't know the answer to. We'll have to wait till the season rolls around, but assuming those things do happen, I think the sky is the limit with Mark Mitchell. And even assuming they don't, I think he's in line for another big year for this Tigers team. So when we look at his projected numbers, I still see him as number 1 in minutes. I have him at just shy of 72% of minutes played. I think his usage rate might increase a little bit, but stay in that same range of about 25%, which should be first or at the very top end of the spectrum on this year's roster, and I currently have him slotted at 14.3 points per game, which I do believe will lead the Mizzou Tigers roster this year in scoring. So with all the goodies out of the way and you see in my face, let's get me off the screen and talk a little bit about his film and what we saw last year out of Mark Mitchell. One thing that I think was very impressive with Mark Mitchell's game last year is that he was really good as a one-on-one player, and that's big in Division I basketball at the high major level. You have to have guys who can beat opponents off the bounce with the ball in their hands, and we're going to look at some of his work here in isolation. Nearly 12% of his offense, which is 90th percentile in usage nationwide, came from isolation actions, and that's big. Having a guy who can beat guys off the dribble really opens things up for your team. His isolation actions last year netted a 1.055 points per possession. So despite the 90th percentile usage, he was 83rd percentile in efficiency. He was really good when he was going one-on-one. He has the strength to overpower smaller defenders, much like we saw with Kobe Brown. He also has the speed to get by bigger defenders. That makes him a tough matchup when you bring him out on the perimeter. He can either back smaller players down or just beat bigger players off the bounce. And of course, part and parcel with all of this is that Mark Mitchell is elite at getting to the free throw line. When you're being so aggressive going to the rim, that's a natural byproduct. We talked about his free throw numbers improving as the year went on, at least in terms of makes. I think him continuing to be a 70% or better free throw shooter with his ability to get to the rim will allow him to put up some really big stat lines from night to night. And one thing we talked about early on in the season last year is Mark Mitchell's driving angles when it comes to getting to the rim. When you're going slot from slot, and what we mean by that is from elbow to elbow, when he is between those two areas, he is deadly at getting to the rim. When he's getting flattened out and driving more baseline, the results are a little bit more mixed. But when you can get him in the middle of the floor attacking the rim, he's very, very good. Or he's just going to bully through a smaller defender on the switch. Hard player to defend. Shows the patience. Really good job getting his defender up in the air, going up and under. So in line with his work as a one-on-one player in isolations on the perimeter, he was also a very effective post player. Only 43%, or I'm sorry, 11.3% of his offense, which is 43rd percentile nationally, came from post-ups, but his 1.02 points per possession on those opportunities was 80th percentile. A very efficient post player when he got the chance. If there's any player on Mizzou's roster next year that's looking for post-up opportunities, it's going to be Mark Mitchell. I don't see that being a huge emphasis in their offense, but when he gets chances like these, a mismatch like Dalton Forsythe on him, he can convert those. And they do have a number of nifty post-up plays that they run for him that have been very effective. And the last area we're going to look at here is his work as a roller out of ball screens. He was only 33rd percentile in usage, but again, his efficiency was very good. It was upwards of 1.25 points per possession, which was 80th percentile nationally. Anything that can get Mark Mitchell in a position where he can go one-on-one against a defender, he's going to have results. Now that we've talked about his strengths, his demonstrated strengths, let's take a little bit of a look at where he might be able to improve. A year ago, Mark Mitchell posted just a 0.79 points per shot on open catch and shoots. I'm sorry, on all catch and shoots. But when he's getting the ball in a situation where he's shooting off the catch, he's been okay, not great. That is an area that I think could really improve, and if it does improve, will really raise the floor to his game. Just being able to knock down open shots every once in a while will really open up the offense, not only for him, but for his teammates as well. We see an example of it here. Defender isn't going to give him much respect, can't knock the shot down. Good look. Again, shot came out a little flat, wasn't able to knock it down. Just small things like this. Making a little bit higher of a percentage on those shots would be a big difference for Mark and the team in general. And not for nothing, but we're going to have to become more accustomed to short-haired Mark Mitchell. His dreadlocks have been gone throughout the postseason, and all preseason photos show him with the shorter look, which, whatever you want to do, just going to be a different look and a different guy to look for on the court. All right, so we're going to talk a little bit more about his passing here. Again, hasn't been a real strength, and he's not going to all of a sudden morph into Kobe Brown in terms of passing. Kobe was an elite passer, but just being able to be a little bit more of a distributor when opponents are focusing in on you as an offensive player, that will reap rewards for the team as a whole. Just simple passes like this can really open things up in the interior. Good kick out for an open jump shooter. That's what you want to see. He doesn't have to be flashy with the passes. He doesn't have to make passes that make NBA scouts drool. He just has to make the right reads and do it often. Finally, we're going to take a look at some of his defense. And, if we're being honest, the results were mixed a bit last year. I like Mark Mitchell as a defender. He was one of the better defenders on the team. But there were times he got picked on a little bit one-on-one. And I think he has the size and athleticism to be a really good perimeter defender. It's just that at times last year, he wasn't always showing it. His one-on-one defense last year graded out at a 32nd percentile level, which isn't great. But again, when you're in a league as tough as the SEC and being asked to defend as many different players as he has to defend with Mizzou's switching defense, it's a difficult ask. But when you look at a guy like Mark and his physical attributes and his defense in general, he should be pretty good in this area. Does a good job being able to recover and contest the shot even after he gets beat initially. The Vanderbilt game probably sticks out more than any in my mind of where he's struggled defending one-on-one, just a little bit late at closing out a jump shooter there. Here he's matched up on a smaller player. Does just enough to shake him loose. Small things like this, I think, are an area for improvement, and one that you don't have to rely on a big jump as we need to see with jump shooting or passing. It's just small things that I think if he works on and getting more accustomed to how Mizzou plays defense or wants to play defense, I think will make him better. And despite being 6'9" and a little underweight for a SEC big man, he did perform pretty well when defending on the block. I was impressed with that area of his game last year. Not moved off his spot easily, still able to contest the shot. That's good post defense. Here he is with a tough matchup in Farrell Payne. Physical, bruising player. Does a great job contesting. Hustles back, gets the good contest, good block. That's good defense. You want to see more of that out of Mark. He has it in him. There are plays that I saw last year where my jaw was just on the floor with how good he was, but there were other times when things just slipped a little bit. And over the course of a season, that's natural, but if Mizzou wants to get where they want to be, Mark Mitchell, Anthony Robinson, players that are going to be on the court a lot have to defend well. And I think Mark has it in him. Here he is with a nice help side block. He's more of a shot alterer when it comes to playing primary defense as opposed to being a second side, a guy coming over with help side defense. But he does have the ability to go up and get some blocks every now and then. He had a 3.1% block rate a year ago, which again is pretty good. Not elite, but good. does a great job keeping Boswell in front of him. That's what you want to see when he's on the perimeter. And Mark was fairly disruptive in the steals category. He had a 2.0 steal rate last year, which again isn't elite, but that's pretty good. And when you combine his steals plus blocks, he is a fairly disruptive player. And impressively, he only fouled 2.4 times per 40 minutes, which is a very, very good number. It's a low number as far as the amount of fouls that are called on him. When you compare it to a guy like Anthony Robinson with a number almost double that, that's what you want to see. You need guys who can stay on the court out of foul trouble and still be good players. He has quick hands. He moves his feet pretty well. Active hands. Those things are important when it comes to being a disruptive defender on a pressure defense. So we have ran through all of the Mark Mitchell film that I have for y'all today. There's no real big surprises what Mark's going to be. It's just a matter of how good he can be versus whether he will be good. He's going to be a good player. Some of these small things that he can clean up, being a little bit more attentive, a little bit more quality on the defensive end, I think is going to be a big focal point I will be watching for with him. He has the ability to be an all SEC defender, and he was good but not great last year. Taking that up another level, being a little bit better on the backboards as well. He averaged about 5 rebounds per game. That should be up 7, 8 a game if he has designs on getting to the NBA. Those two things I think are non-negotiable of things that you want to see with him going forward. And then if you can sprinkle in a little bit more jump shooting, a little bit more distributing, you could have a really, really good player on your hands. The SEC really got scavenged when it came to top players leaving after this year. And I think with a little bit of improvements, even if incremental, Mark Mitchell can take that step up and be one of the truly elite players in the league. And when you look at a tandem with Anthony Robinson, who also has the potential to be very great, Mizzou has what looks to be one of the best 1-2 punches in the league if things go right. So with that being said, that's all I've got for you on Mark Mitchell. If you like what we're doing here, if you like the player previews, there's 14 of them coming out. Leave us a note. Let us know how we're doing. If you don't like it, also let us know. We'd like to serve you better and do what you want to see. We're here for you. We hope these player previews have been enlightening. If you haven't already, go ahead and subscribe to Rock M Radio. And if you haven't subscribed over to Rock M Plus, we've got a lot of great things over there. We're obviously hosting those videos here that are open for public consumption, but behind the subscription wall, we've got all kinds of good stuff on recruiting, scouting, player previews, team previews, recruit previews, whatever you want to know. We've got it. So if you're a big Mizzou Hoops junkie and you're looking for more, come join us over there. With that being said, that's all I got for you. We'll see you on the next player preview. And until then, take it easy and have a good week.
Thank you, everyone, for tuning in to Rock M Radio, a proud partner of Fans First Sports Network. Rock M Radio is the official podcast network of Rock M Plus, a new and exciting subscription service provided by me and the other voices of Rock M Radio. Please take a few moments to head over to rockm.plus and sign up for an account today. The cost is only $5 a month, and the benefits include access to our live podcast, a subscriber-only message board, weekly newsletters, and more. If you enjoyed this episode of Rock M Radio and would like to see more just like it beamed directly into your personal device, make sure to click the subscribe button below and tell your friends. Our podcast feed is available through the Apple Podcast app for iPhone, Google Podcast app for Android, whatever app you listen to your podcast. You can also find Rock M Radio on Spotify. If you're looking for a podcast about your favorite team that is not Missouri Tigers, Fan First Sports Network is your answer. A full podcast network loaded with the team-specific podcasts covering Major League Baseball, the NFL, NHL, NBA, MLS, and more. And we'll be back with more episodes of Rock M Radio coming to you soon.